Cena had always imagined marriage like a Nollywood film. She pictured a husband who would come home with suya in one hand and flowers in the other. He would call her pet names, sweetheart, honey pie, my world. She had dreamed of laughter, small surprises, and quiet nights when they would simply sit and talk. That was the picture in her head the day she said, "I do." At first, reality looked a lot like her dream. Sam was warm. He listened when she talked about small things at work. They would sit on the couch and gist, talk about life and little hopes. Sometimes they bought roasted corn and walked slowly home, sharing the smoke and the laughter. Sam would smile at her and squeeze her hand. Cena felt loved. The house felt like their safe place. Then one day a black box came into their sitting room. The box was shiny and new. It had lights and a logo. It was called a ps5. Sam opened it like a child. He smiled in a new way, soft and wide. He set it on the shelf and hooked it up to their television. The first week, Sam still smiled at Cena. He said, "See, baby, this one is for fun." He promised work would still be his first job. He promised he would always come to their bed at night. But the ps5 was hungry. It wanted time. It wanted attention. Sam fed it every evening. After work he no longer came to greet her at the door. He dropped his bag, walked past her hello, and went straight to the couch. He plugged in the headset and became someone else. He shouted at the TV like the game was a very important meeting. "Referee, are you blind?" he would yell. "Pass the ball." Even the neighbors could hear him. They would laugh and shake their heads. Cena felt strange. She kept stirring soup and listening to his chants through the wall. Sometimes she called softly, "Sam, can we talk?" He would answer, "Yes, baby, just one match." One match became two. Two became many. Sometimes it was 3 a.m. And Sam was still awake, arguing with strangers over the internet about offside rules. Cena tried many things. She bought a new dress and walked slowly past him like a model. He barely looked up. She cooked his favorite meals, goat meat stew, jollof rice, fried plantain, but by the time she called him, the food grew cold on the table. She tried to laugh and sit near him while he played, but he seemed to live inside the headphones. His eyes followed the small glowing controller more than they followed her. When she asked him to pay the electricity bill, he nodded and said he would later. Later never came. When she asked him to carry the leaking gas cylinder to the mechanic, he said, "Baby, I'm in the semifinals." By the time the match stopped, the cylinder was leaking and she sat outside fanning herself with a plate. Her patience felt like oil that was getting thinner with each day. The worst nights were the quiet ones. Cena would lie in bed hugging her pillow, feeling hollow. She asked herself sometimes, "Is this pillow my husband?" The loneliness cut her like a small, steady knife. She had married a man who had promised her heaven and earth. Instead, he promised one more match. One Friday night Cena put on a brand new nightgown. She passed in front of Sam several times, hoping he would look. She coughed, pretended to drop her phone so she could bend and catch his eye. He did not look up. He only shouted, "Pass the ball." Her heart boiled. She thought, am I competing with Messi and Ronaldo for my husband's face? On Saturday she woke early. She cleaned the house until it sparkled. She washed clothes, swept the compound, and even fried akara for breakfast. She walked past his seat in nice jeans, in heels, with makeup, and again he did not notice. She decided to cook his best meal, goat meat stew with pounded yam. She stirred the pot with love. She sang to herself and promised quietly, "Tonight, he will look at me." She set the table like a queen. The stew shone like small gold. The pounded yam was soft and white. She called him. "Sam, food is ready." He waved a hand without looking and said, baby, one more match. I'm going for Champions League. Cena waited. The food grew cold. She tried again. He only shouted at the game, attack. Shoot. Her heart cracked. She walked into the room and stood right in front of the television. She blocked his view. Sam leaned left. Cena moved left too. He leaned right, she followed. He grabbed the controller as if he could not breathe without it. Baby, move now, he mouthed. Cena stood very still and said with a voice that trembled, move to where? Move to your grave. Since you married this PlayStation, did I not marry you? She snatched the controller. Sam screamed like someone who had lost a limb. He jumped up and grabbed a second controller. He said, baby, calm down. Let us play together. That will be romantic. Cena could not believe it. Play together? You mean we will tackle Messi together? Her voice was hot with hurt. She left the room and went to the bedroom. Her decision had formed like a stone in her throat. On Monday morning Cena packed the PS5 neatly in its box. She walked out of their compound in the sun carrying it under her arm like a bag of rice. The neighbors watched and whispered, but she walked steadily to the Johnson compound next door. Mr. Johnson's children always begged to play at their house. Cena knocked. When she told them the PS5 was for sale for 5,000 naira, the children screamed with joy. Their father handed them the money quickly. Cena set the PS5 up in their sitting room. The children's laughter filled the air like birdsong. Cena walked home with the cash folded in her pocket. Her face was calm, and inside she felt a little lighter. That evening Sam came home whistling. He looked for the box everywhere. He shouted, Tina, where is my PS5? Cena lifted her eyes from the couch, sipping Fanta. Oh, your toy, she said softly. I sold it for 5,000 naira. Sam fell to his knees. He beat his chest and wailed loudly. The neighbors rushed in, thinking disaster had struck. When they saw the reason, an empty shelf where a console used to be, they could not help but laugh. Some neighbors praised Cena quietly. One called out, so your wife chased away your rival. Another said, this matter will reach the elders. Sam staggered outside, pressing his ear to the Johnson wall to listen to the children playing with what used to be his console. The sound stabbed him like cold knives. He returned home and told Cena he would take the matter to the elders. Cena sat calm, arms folded. I sold your second wife, she said. The compound broke into laughter. Sam's drama rolled down like a river. He went to the elders' house the next morning with tears and big words. That night Cena slept. She had done something brave and small. She had taken back one piece of her time in her house. The PS5 was gone. The house was quiet. The choice had been made. Cena did not know what would happen next, but for the first time in many nights, she felt the space to breathe. And in the quiet, as the moon rose over their flat, Cena whispered to herself, if this is the test, then let it be the one that brings him back. She did not know if Sam would change. She only knew she could not be invisible anymore. The story of the black box had only just begun. When Sam walked into the elder's room, he came with big words and bigger tears. He knelt on the mat like a man who had lost his only child. The elders looked at him sideways. Elder John asked slowly, my son, what has happened? Sam cried, my wife sold my PS5. The elders blinked. At first they did not know what this PS5 was. One thought it was land. Another thought it was furniture. When Sam explained, they had to cough and clear their throats because it sounded funny and sad at the same time. Elder Thomas wiped his eyes, not from laughter but from the surprise of a man who had expected a bigger sin. The compound people came to the elder's gate to hear the news. When Tina walked into the meeting, she told the elders quietly and clearly what had been happening at home. She told them about lonely nights, cold food, and long matches that ate Sam's attention. She spoke with the voice of someone who had given up small things for a long time. The elders were quiet for a moment. One of them said kindly, "No man should forget his home for play. The home must be the first thing." Another said, "A hobby must not become an idol." They told Sam to apologize and to change his ways. They warned Cena that she should not sell anything without telling her husband. Life must be fair, they said. But they also told Sam clearly, "You must take your wife out. You must feed her heart with time and not promises." Sam left the elder's house with shame like a heavy cloth on his shoulders. He walked back slowly. Some of the neighbors who had been waiting for news started to giggle and whisper stories that sounded like lessons. Mothers used Sam's story to warn their children, "If you spend all your time on games, you will be like Uncle Sam." Children saw the story as something funny and prayed not to become video crazy. Back at home, Sam sat down. Cena was in the kitchen, not looking at him with anger but with something softer, an exhaustion that had patience in it. The first week after the elders' meeting, Sam tried. He came home and switched off the TV. He held Cena's hand. They ate together. He took her to the market and carried small bags for her. He listened when she spoke about her day. These were small things. They felt small, but Cena could see they were real. The compound watched these changes like a slow sunrise. "See," someone said, "Sam is trying." But people also like a good story. So they kept telling and retelling how the wife had sold the PS5 for 5,000 naira. Children still used the tale for discipline. At night, when boys wanted to skip homework, their mothers said, "Do you want to be Uncle Sam? Do you want your wife to sell your toy?" The boys would close their books and run to bed. But change is not a straight road. Sam missed the console. When he heard the laughter next door, the voices of Johnson's children playing, his chest hurt. He peeped through the window one day and saw the small screen and the controllers shining. He felt like someone who looked at a cup of water while in the desert. He sat down and cried quietly. Cena came and sat beside him. She did not mock him. She simply sat and watched the sunset with him. "Why did you sell it?" he asked, soft. Her face was calm. "Because it was your second wife," she said. "You were at the altar with a toy. I wanted my husband." He could not say much. Tears had dried like leaves on his face. He promised again to change, and this time he kept his promise better. Weeks passed. Sam now helped around the house. He swept, he boiled water for the rice, he turned the word and listened. He even learned a recipe that Cena loved. At first, it was hard for him to put away the urge to reach for a controller. But he found that when he spent time with Cena, there were small joys that games had never given him, her laugh when he made a joke, the way she frowned when she tried a new stew, the quiet comfort of two hands held in the dark. Still, some nights were testing. One Saturday, some friends called him to come and play a tournament at the internet cafe. They said, "Sam, just one game." He stood at the porch, his phone in his hand, the thought heavy like cold rain. Cena was washing plates nearby. She did not look at him. He thought of his old life, controllers, wins, quick joys. Then he remembered the night he sang to her to make the stew, how she had smiled the first time he helped in the kitchen. He put the phone down. That was a turning point. It was not some great speech. It was a small choice. Sam stayed with his wife. They ate and watched an old Nollywood film together. Cena fell asleep on his shoulder. He felt a quiet pride that his chest had not held before. The compound people began to notice the difference. Some still joked. But more people now nodded when they passed Sam and Cena. Sam no longer looked like the man who had been broken in the court of elders. He looked like someone learning how to be a husband. He was not perfect. He still stumbled. He still felt a hollow when he heard the shout, "Goal," from the next door. But he learned to turn that hollow into a signal: go and talk to your wife. Go and listen. One day the Johnsons' children came back to Cena and Sam with a problem. The PS5 had broken. One of the boys had dropped a remote and the console shut down with a blue light. The children were sad. Sam watched them and felt a strange urge, an urge not to own a console but to help. He went over and helped. He looked at wires, moved them gently, and tried to fix it. The children watched him with respect. He could have hidden away his knowledge and let them handle it, but instead he used that knowledge to make someone else happy. Cena watched him from the door. Her eyes shone. She felt a warmth lift her chest. "You see," she whispered to herself. "This man can be kind when he chooses." The elders saw this, too. They smiled at the couple from afar. The Sunday pastor even used Sam as an example of a man who had learned a lesson. But the pastor said something more. He told the crowd that the story was not about shame but about love. "We are not here to laugh at each other," he said. "We are here to help one another be better." Though, old habits returned for a moment. One night Sam watched a short clip of a football match on an uncle's phone. The excitement returned like a little bird that wanted to fly back. He sat and watched, and for a second the old longing tugged. But Cena was there, folding clothes. She laughed at something on the radio and Sam felt the tug loosen. He put the phone away. He realized the thrill of a real moment. Cena smiling at the radio was better than a winner's score on a screen. At their compound, the story of the PS5 became part of the neighborhood library of tales. It had a lesson: love must be chosen more than once. Parents used it when their children fought over games. Teachers used it when they taught about respect. Even Mr. Johnson, whose children had the PS5, would wave at Sam now and say, "Thanks, brother. You helped my boys have fun." This small kindness was a bridge back to the community. One rainy evening, Cena fell sick with fever. She lay on the bed, and her forehead was hot. Sam sat by her side all night. He brought cool water, wiped her face, and kept watch. He called the doctor and asked the neighbor for herbs like the old ways. He stayed awake while she slept. For the first time, he understood what being a husband really meant. It meant staying when it was hard and holding the small things dear. When she recovered, Cena looked at him with a softness that had new trust in it. "You were here," she said simply. He answered with tired eyes, "Of course. Now I know where my home is." Tears came to both their eyes, not the loud crying of the old days but a quiet rain that washed their small hurts. Their home had become a place where both could be seen again. Months turned to seasons. The empty shelf remained empty, but the space did not feel lonely. It had become a place for a small photo frame of their wedding day, a small bowl for keys, and sometimes fresh flowers Cena bought with little money saved from their market trips. They would sit at the little table in the evening and talk about the future. They dreamt of small things, maybe a visit to a quiet village, maybe a new paint for the sitting room, maybe a small savings jar for a trip. These dreams were slow, but they were theirs. One bright morning the pastor spoke about forgiveness. He said, "Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is choosing to move forward." Sam listened with his whole heart. He stood up after the service and went to the elder and quietly asked, "Can you bless our small home?" The elder smiled and laid a kindly hand on his shoulder. The blessing was a small thing made powerful by its honesty. Sam learned to balance his life. He kept a small time each week for games, but it did not rule him anymore. When the urge rose, he would remind himself of Cena's eyes when she wanted him home. He was not perfect, but he was steady. Cena also learned something. She learned to speak calm and steady when hurt came. She would say what she felt early, not let anger grow into big storms. Both of them learned the old rule: speak early, forgive early, love again. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky orange, Sam and Cena sat on their small bench sipping zobo. They listened to the Johnson children shout through the wall. Sam put his arm around Cena and said softly, "At least I still have you." Cena leaned into him and smiled. "Yes," she said, "and as long as I am here, there will be no second wives made of plastic." They laughed and the sound filled the compound like warm bread. Their story went on in small ways. They grew older together a little bit. They learned that marriage is not a film but a long walk. It has hard parts, bright parts, and boring parts. The secret they learned was simple and true: choose your family daily, and when you fall, get up and try again. The black box had come and gone. It had taught them something they would carry forever. In the end, the house was full of small noises, cooking sounds, radio music, laughter, and sometimes the shout of a child passing by. The elders would smile when they walked by. Children would point and say, "See Uncle Sam? He does farm things and plays with his wife now." Sam and Cena would look at each other and grin. They had a simple life, but it was their life. It was messy, loud, and full. And every evening, as they watched the sun go down, they thanked quietly for the small steady gift they had, each other.